Well, hey, soccer fans, welcome back. We appreciate you sticking with us as we continue our 2020 MLS preseason team previews. Previously in the podcast, we talked about Inter Miami and Chicago. So make sure if you're watching on YouTube, you go back and check out those videos. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss anything coming up. Turn on those notifications. Join the over 100 people who have subscribed just in the last couple weeks watching our videos and things. So again, thanks to all the subscribers for helping us grow. But now we are going to dive back into the Portland Timbers and everything about this team, from their offseason moves to their potential starting 11 and where we think that their ceiling and floor are this season. So Portland has been a little busy, for a team who we thought had their championship window slammed shut last year, especially after Valeri was rumored to be out of favor and out of contract. Wasn't rumored to be out of contract, he actually was. Couldn't get things done. Maybe there's another season left. Maybe they got one more shot at glory here, and that'll be my mantra for the Timbers this year. One last shot at a trophy before they really have to flip over the roster a little bit. So looking at some of the players in here, you got Dario Zuparik, Yimi Chara, Blake Bodley, Yaroslav Niezgoda, and Felipe Mora. A couple names stand out: Yimi Chara and Felipe Mora. And obviously, if you know anything about Portland or the MLS, you know Diego Chara, probably the most important player in Portland Timbers MLS franchise history. Brother, Yimi Chara is now on the team, just transferred in from Atletico Mineiro in Brazil. He is not going to be the next great defensive midfielder. He is more attack-minded. He's a winger, and coming in from Brazil, I expect him to have an immediate impact on this Portland Timbers team, and hopefully if he's playing opposite Sebastian Blanco, that it just really opens things up and lets the Timbers run the way that Gio Savarese always wanted them to run, but oftentimes couldn't, and then just had to go back to that bunker and counter formation. Mike, you were talking to me about Felipe Mora a little bit before we started recording things. What have you heard about this transfer in?
Yeah, so for first thing, I think there's a lot of Timbers fans who would disagree with you about Chara being the most important player in Timbers history. I think a lot of them would go with Diego Valeri
Well,
for what he's done.
statistically,
But I know where you're
I
coming from.
get
I
it.
know
I
where you're
get
coming
it.
from. But Valeri is, I'm just saying that there's probably a good portion of those fans that would disagree with you.
That's fair. Even though I'm
So
pretty sure they've lost every game that Chara hasn't started or something like that. Like there's some ridiculous
right.
statistic out there that's like if Chara doesn't start, they lose.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's very important. He is very important. There's no doubt about that. So it's exciting to see his brother come in from Atletico Mineiro. So Felipe Mora transfer in from Pumas, a TAM on loan deal. So he's kind of he's a TAM spot. I'm sure he's going to get plenty of playing time this season. Looks like a good signing, in for the Portland Timbers as well. Jaroslav Niezgoda. If transfer from Legia Warsaw over in Poland, Polish national team player. This guy, he's a big dude that seems like he's going to score a lot of goals. So the last time we had a guy come over from Legia Warsaw, he did score a lot of goals. That was Nemanja Nikolic. Even though we all have our personal feelings about Nikolic and his finishing capabilities, I hope Niezgoda is better than Nikolic from that standpoint. But a good DP signing for the Timbers as well. Some of the players out, obviously Brian Fernandez had his contract terminated. That was well documented in the media of what was going on with his substance abuse issues. So hopefully he's doing better, and is starting to turn his life around a little bit.
Yeah, actually, I was kind of waiting for the MLS to file some sort of action against whatever club he came from in Mexico, because supposedly the Liga MX club withheld a lot of this or timed up his medical evaluations where he would pass, and even though they knew he was having some issues, it was almost like they covered it up just long enough to get the deal done. So I was waiting to see if MLS would take any action or go through some sort of arbitration, file a complaint with FIFA or CONCACAF or something like that. I don't know what the statute of limitations is on those kind of things, but I'm guessing if they haven't done it by now, they're not going to do it at all. But that's the lawyer in me. Sue everybody.
And if you need the lawyer, ask Nick. Some of the other
Yeah.
players out, we've got Zarek Valentin from the expansion draft, goalkeeper Kendall McIntosh, Modu Jadama, Foster Langsdorff, and Claude Dielna. So a few of those guys I had not heard of before, Kendall McIntosh, Modu Jadama, and Foster Langsdorff. However, Dielna, I do remember him from his days in New England. I don't remember his days with the Portland Timbers, but more players in than players out as far as good talent. So definitely a good off season for the Timbers. And as you said earlier, it kind of opens up that window again, possibly for another season or two, because they did make those right moves. They didn't have to go for a complete rebuild. They brought Valeri back, which is extremely important, and then put some good pieces around them to help. So that's pretty much all I have on the players in and out. Nick, do you have anything else to add on that front?
No, you're absolutely right. Though this was not a rebuild or a restructure. If to use the phrase that we have been, it was more of a reload. And I think Savarese is rejuvenated, especially after dealing with the death of his father last season, and he was overseas for a while, coming back. Now he's refreshed, he's refocused. The squad is rebuilt, and look for Portland to make some noise in the West in a very tough Western Conference. As far as getting into the designated players, probably in the Western Conference more so than anywhere, like the designated players are going to drive your team. And for Portland, Sebastian Blanco, Yimi Chara, and Yaroslav Niezgoda have to have good seasons. I've said it before, you need your best players playing their best soccer if you're going to succeed in the MLS. So we know about Sebastian Blanco. He has been a staple for this Portland Timbers team. The guy has a beautiful free kick. He is quick. He's deceptively quick. I think a lot of players underestimate him because he's maybe a little undersized. But then in a blink of an eye, he's behind you and starting a counterattack. So I expect to see a lot of the same from Blanco. What I would like to see more from Blanco, though, is a little more maturity and leadership. He's often the guy that's chirping in the ear of the ref. I believe he got a couple of yellow cards last season for dissent, maybe one or two for diving and simulation. He's in the middle of every dust-up that occurs between the Portland Timbers and the opposing team. So it's a personal thing for me. I know a lot of other fans love that from him, but personally, I just shut up and play. Maybe that's too strong of a way to put it, but I'd like to see him show a little more leadership, a little more maturity, and get the results, man. Like, if you're not happy with the way the game's going, go score a goal. Go set up a play. Make something happen rather than chirping at the referee. So that's kind of my take against Sebastian Blanco. And for those of you who disagree, you're probably well-founded in your disagreements as well. So let us know in the comments. Let us know on Twitter at SOP Soccer. But moving on to the next DP, Yimi Chara, coming in from Brazil. Mike, this guy's a winger. He's a big dude, like you said. What else more do you want out of a scouting report? He's got his brother on the team. It should be an easy transition for him. Big winger, influencer. What else do you know about Yimi Chara?
Well, when I was saying big, it was not for Yimi Chara. It was for Yaroslav
Oh,
Niezgoda.
excuse me.
Yimi
I've
Chara's
seen pictures.
Only 5'7".
Oh, well, he looks bigger than 5'7" in his pictures. He's definitely been hitting the weight room, that's for sure. That's what I remember, at least when I was looking him up. But anyway, go. What else have you been able to find out about Yimi, and then give us some of your notes on Yaroslav?
He's got a lot of experience in some decent leagues in this hemisphere, as far as the South American leagues in Brazil and Colombia, as well as with Mexico. He was with Monterrey for a few years down in Liga MX. So he's got he's got some talent. This kid is good, and I still call him a kid because he's only 28 in the prime of his career, and I'm getting old now. So I didn't ever think there would be a day that I would call a 28-year-old a kid, but here we are. Yimi Chara looks like it's going to be a good signing for Portland. I think, as a winger, he's expected to bring some goals and bring that offense, and I think he will do so. Niezgoda, on the other hand, is that striker, right? From Legia Warsaw, he's won titles. He knows how to win. That's a big club in Poland. They win they win their league a lot. They're one of the best teams over there, get some Champions League time, Europa League, stuff like that. So definitely expect some good things out of him to really put home some goals. So that's kind of the little bit that I know about those guys. They're not huge signings. They don't shake the soccer world, and they're not Chicharitos or the big name guys. But I really think they're going to get it done on the field, and really a prime of their career type of guys that are really going to do well and can bring a lot to a franchise.
By the way, I was looking up Yimi Chara's picture. He's my height. He's 5'7", but 170 pounds. So he's got almost 20 pounds of muscle on me. So I still think he's a big guy. I'm going to stand by that comment. And as I'm looking at his player profile, I believe we've been mispronouncing it this whole time. I think he does go by Jimmy or Jimmy instead of Yimi. So apologize to Mr. Chara. Looking forward to watching you play. As far as Yaroslav, like you said, the striker, his last couple of years over in Poland, he's scored 39 goals in 88 appearances in the Polish top flight. So he's scoring every other game in Poland. We've seen guys come from those kind of middle to, I should say, second to third tier type of leagues in Europe, either the Belgian league or the Turkish league or the Polish league. And some of them succeed and some of them really struggle. I think he's going to be one of the guys that succeeds or at least has an above average career here at the MLS. Because like I said, played for a top team. I didn't look up the full detail of Legia Warsaw, but I'm sure they got some Europa League competitions, which is the second tier of the continental competitions in Europe. If not Champions League, it wouldn't surprise me if he's played against some of these giant, massive clubs over in Europe. So hopefully he can bring that experience and that a goal every other game to Portland and really, spread the wealth, take the pressure off of Valeri and Blanco, take the pressure off of Ebo Bise and Andy Polo, who, we haven't really seen them live up to whatever hype they've had and become prolific goal scorers for Portland. So, yeah, I'm definitely high on Nizgoda and Chara, and hopefully Blanco can, play with just enough of an edge to still be effective. So we've talked about the ins and the outs. We've talked about the designated players. Mike, who's the most important player on this Portland Timbers team in your mind?
To me, it's Sebastian Blanco. I think he is the most important. He's kind of the leader of that team. He's been around, I think Valeri obviously was that guy, and he's still going to be a big contributor to the team. But I expect his production to drop as he is getting up there a little bit. So I'm going with Blanco as the most important player for the Timbers. He's got to stop whining like you alluded to before, and he's going to be the leader. He's going to really drive that offense, and with distribution, he's got a lot of attacking weapons now. They're not focused on Mbabise up top, which is a good talent. Don't get me wrong, but he's not Felipe Mora or Yaroslav Nizgoda, or Yimi Chara that he's going to have a chance there. So definitely he's got the pieces around him now to really take that next step. And he's been a good MLS player, a good signing overall so far, and he can really take that to the next step. So for me, it's Sebastian Blanco.
Do you think that any defender could be the most important player for Portland, or maybe their goalkeeper, if it's Jeff Clark or Clark or Atanella? I mean, are you thinking that Zuparik, their Croatian defender, taking up an international slot there? I mean, we talk about the offense all the time, and we understand that this is an attacking league. Are we in MLS 4.0 with young, flashy attacking talent, or are we still in 3.0 where it's the era of expansion? Could a defender really assert themselves as a top guy for Portland, especially when you're playing Seattle twice a year, when you're playing LAFC and LA? Like if they can have some lockdown defense, maybe a defender becomes the most important player. Am I creating headlines where there are none, Mike? What do you think?
Yeah, you are. The defenders don't get the praise. The defenders don't get praise. Defenders do well and are good when you don't know who they are, right? It's the forwards, the midfielders, the assists, the goals. Those are the things that get the headlines, and that's really the most important piece. Now, obviously, you need a defense. If you don't have a defense and your defense is letting in a bunch of goals, you're not going to outscore everybody. I don't care how good your offense is. You're not going to outscore them every night 5-4. It's not going to happen. So they are very important to the team, but you gotta you really put your faith in the most important player being that some part of the attacking puzzle there. The more MLS teams spend their DP money on attackers and midfielders, mostly attacking, sometimes defensive mids. But it's very rare, although Portland has done it in the past with Liam Ridgewell, to sign a DP defender. So it can be done, but it's not really the trend. So I'm saying you're creating headlines for no reason, Nick.
Hey,
Yeah.
Your TFC, for a year had a DP playing center back when Michael Bradley had to fill in. So you know what? It's not outside of the realm of possibilities.
He's not a center back. He's not a center back, and that was determined very well that he's not.
Sure. And the Fire had Schweinsteiger playing center back. Okay, you're right. Those are terrible examples. I think I'm just proving your point even more.
Yes, you are.
But breakout youngsters, you had some great conversation with some Portland fans online. Who have the fans identified, and who do you think is going to be the breakout youngster?
A lot of talk about Marco Farfan. He is the youngest player in the roster at 21 years old. And, Villafania, the fans aren't very high on Villafania, at least on Reddit, as far as left back. So they're really kind of can't wait to see Farfan, who's a Portland kid. If you go back and check out the Inter Miami section of our podcast or on our previews on YouTube, you'll see that for the homegrown players that are truly homegrown, that are from that area and that town, the fans really love them and kind of got to give them a shot. So that's Farfan as well. We got a couple other guys that they were big on. Zambrano, Williamson, Konechny, all made the conversation. But we've got the second one listed is Marvin Loria, 22-year-old midfielder, international roster guys are going to get an opportunity for sure. So we could definitely see him, making that jump to really breaking out for the Timbers.
Absolutely. So knowing what we know, with Portland playing already a preseason game, let's take a crack at this projected starting 11 here. Right before we did this, I took the notes down. They played a preseason game in a 4-3-3 formation. But we all know that Savarese will make changes to the lineups, to the formation, based on the form of the team. If they're playing well, if they're flowing, if they're attacking, if they're really going out and getting games and fit, I look for this 4-3-3 formation so he can really get a good offense going. But we've seen it the last couple of years. When they start dropping points, when they start slipping to or below that playoff line, I mean, he'll bunker and counter. I mean, we all know the Christmas tree formation, as made famous by the Portland Timbers, the 5-4-3-2-1 type of formation, or the 4-3-2-1 type of formation there. Oddly enough, it was the Timbers that came up with the Christmas tree formation. That's just all kind of clicking for me right now. So in that preseason game, with the 4-3-3, they had Clark starting in goal, though it wouldn't surprise me if Attinella won that back. Or maybe they kind of dangle Attinella out for a desperate team who needs a goalie and maybe make a deal for it. That's kind of the business side of things over there. Along the back line, they started Morea, Mabiala, Zuparik, and Villafania, though I don't see Mabiala and Villafania playing most of the season. Farfan could get the minutes, Mike, as you alluded to, could replace Mabiala. Villafania could be on the outs for a younger player or another proven guy on the roster. As far as their midfielders, they ended up starting Paredes, Chara, Diego Chara, and Jimmy Chara. I really don't see that changing. I think those are their guys across the mid. And then up front, Niezgoda started with Blanco and Ebobisse, but then it wouldn't surprise me if Valeri gets a start at the beginning of the season, just as a nod to him and the fans, or if you see Mora take away a lot of time from Ebobisse. So that's kind of my thinking there. Mike, let me know if you agree or disagree, and then where do you think this starting lineup can take Portland come the end of the season?
Yeah, no, you're spot on there. I think having Mora coming in for Obise is probably what I would just put him there right from the get go. Uh, it's a strong lineup. I think they're definitely in the playoff hunt. As far as a ceiling for this team. Kind of the best case scenario for them is a mid range Western Conference playoff spot, so like fourth seed, fifth seed, something like that, right on that bubble to get a home playoff game at Providence Park, which would be massive for that team because we all know how that atmosphere there is second to none in MLS. So that's kind of where I see them being as far as a ceiling, a floor. It could turn into a rebuild by the summer transfer window, right? If it's a really rough start, they had that rough start last year, and they kind of turned that around because they had that long stretch away from home while Providence Park was getting renovated. But this one last shot at the at the apple might not pan out, and it could be right down at the bottom of the barrel. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. If Portland plays to their capabilities, if everything breaks their way, Blanco has a resurgence, Valeri becomes a super sub for them, getting 20, 25 minutes and a goal and assist a game or something like that, then they're definitely there fighting for a home playoff game. But the floor, you said it best. One last shot at glory falls flat the first half of the season. They turn into a selling team over the summer transfer window. They miss the playoffs. The fans riot. Portland burns to the ground. Just ridiculousness over there. I think that's the worst case scenario for the Portland Timbers. But they do get their season started March 1st. At home against Minnesota, so we'll be able to see what lineup they trot out and what kind of success that they're going to have there. So with that, we want to thank all of our listeners, our viewers, our subscribers, our followers. We appreciate you tuning in, taking the time to join our conversation about all things MLS and American soccer. We want to thank you to our sponsors, Donovan Food Brokerage and Nice Premium Iceland Spring Water. And again, just to remind you all, if you are looking to get in and invest with us, we do have sponsorship opportunities available both on the podcast and for YouTube. But again, thank you to our listeners. Thank you to our sponsors. And have a wonderful night. Enjoy CONCACAF Champions League. We are now 2 days of games into it. Like crazy scenes with Montreal and Saprissa. Things are going great for the MLS side so far. Then again, I haven't checked stoppage time, so you never know. But thanks again, fans. We appreciate it. Looking forward to hearing from you and looking forward to talking soccer again with you next week.